This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Get your free 30-day trial and a free audiobook download by visiting audibletrial.com/NHC.
Warning, the following podcast contains irreverent humor, exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off this podcast immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
Son, I wouldn't be so hasty if I were you.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
You really could technically thaw out Princess Leia like a damn toaster strudel, and she'd be alive. I think I have a new intro clip.
AJ.
Chewie, crack a window. The cold air keeps me awake.
Steve.
It's a sign of any good audio podcast is visuals, right?
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we follow up last week's episode about most overrated Star Wars characters by discussing who we feel are the most underrated Star Wars characters.
Spoiler, JT's last one is wrong.
No, it's not.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. With me are AJ and Steve. Thanks once again go out to Galactic Empire for allowing us to use their music as our theme song. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And you can also now buy official Nerf Herder Council t-shirts. We have multiple designs available, so you do have a choice between which one you would prefer. Just go to teepublic.com. That's TEE public.com /user/NHC podcast. And you can see our designs there and pick out which one you like the best and help out the show. So
we will also put a link up on our social medias because that is a lot to remember.
Yeah, right. It's not easy to search for us on there because there's so many Star Wars knockoff shirts. But so if you just
then
go
again, if you're committed enough to find that and buy one of those t-shirts and be willing to wear that in public and show off how bad your taste is.
See, that's my kind of shirt, though. I have so many Star Wars shirts that look like other things. Like the one I'm wearing right now looks like the Converse All-Star logo, but it says Rebel Alliance All-Star and it says Han Solo real small where it, usually says other stuff. So it looks like it's Converse, but it's actually not. I have a number of Star Wars shirts like that. So that's basically what ours look like. We kind of rip off the actual Star Wars font, but we use our own Nerf Herder Council signage, and it looks pretty cool. AJ does a great job with our designs. So
you know what's really cool about the site, though, is that you can change the colors. So you don't get to change the color of the design, but you can get it printed on any number of things in any color of garment or apparel that you want.
I wondered about that.
So yeah, it's cool. Like they make you suggest the colors that you want as the default.
Yeah.
But then you get to choose which colors you want to make it available on. So I just pretty much make it all of them. So get crazy with it. If you want a hot pink t-shirt with our logo on it, go for it. You do you, man.
I know I'm getting black because I'll probably get one of each design, and those will be stage shirts for me.
The designer suggests asphalt or charcoal heather, actually.
So. Well, I don't care. I'm the lead singer of a band, and I like to wear t-shirts like that on stage.
The designer suggests asphalt.
I don't give a damn. I am getting black.
We know you don't care about your appearance. So.
Oh, shut up. I'm still losing weight. Up yours. So anyways, to jump onto tonight's topic before we fall off the rails. Hopefully so. We ended last week's episode by almost jumping into another topic, and we decided we would make a whole nother show about it. Last week, we talked about underrated overrated Star Wars characters, which got us to thinking. And we thought, maybe we should talk about underrated Star Wars characters.
And after we put out the fire, we decided that we should record another podcast.
Exactly.
You mean after someone lit a match?
Oh, shut up. We're not getting into that. That's disgusting.
Yeah, I know. I was here.
Well, you have to now.
Was it Weird Science? Wow, there's chicks outside and you're dropping wolf bait? Well, what do we do? I don't know, light a match or something.
Right.
If any of you have never seen Weird Science, just go. It's one of the funniest movies ever. Love that movie. So anyways, we thought we would discuss most underrated Star Wars characters. And since I started the last one, I believe I will start this one too.
Hey, you cut me off the last episode. I thought I had dibs.
Oh, that's true. I did. All right. So, awesome. Well, I'm still going to start. So no, go ahead, man.
Hate being the younger brother.
You're also the better looking and more in shape one. So,
well, more in shape I'll give you, but the rest is subjective. One thing that is not subjective though, high point of Rebels, Thrawn, right? I mean, I don't know if he was really underrated, but I think I call him underrated because they did such a good job of bringing in the actual, like the book character and making him feel like he was just in with everybody else. They didn't really have to change him, you know?
That doesn't seem underrated to me though. Excellent character. That's
underrated or underused or utilized, I guess.
Damn it. Now we got a third topic.
Oh,
Phasma, Boba Fett.
Why didn't we think of that one? Damn it. Okay.
Well, we did now.
So, yeah. Okay.
So maybe on the Nerf Herder Council.
Yeah. All right. On that note, we'll close up shop.
So maybe Thrawn isn't underrated, but he was underrated by George Lucas. He was completely discounted by George Lucas.
Wasn't even acknowledged by George Lucas.
Right. Exactly. So I don't think George Lucas rated him highly enough. Therefore, he's underrated
by some of us who shall go unnamed.
Landed on my feet with that one.
Well, my underrated character might surprise people again. I'm going with R2-D2 because I'm going to use logic provided to me by our cousin Chris, who's appeared on the show a few times. And
he's using logic, Steve.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
That fits as well as show prep does on this podcast.
He told me that R2 is the most important character in Star Wars. And he backed it up with facts where basically in every movie, he saves the day so that the adventure can keep going. In episode 1,
I'd buy that.
He fixes the shield while they're escaping, in the beginning of the movie so they don't get blown to bits.
That little droid did it.
Yep. Shout out to Rick O'Lee.
Right past the main power converter.
And so there's that. And I mean, in every movie, you can run through something that R2 did that progressed the story and or kept the heroes alive to have them able to reach their conclusion. So
let's just say that all 6 movies were done in order 1 through 6. I know this is like hypothetical terms. There is no movie 2 without R2.
Yeah.
Like everybody's dead.
There's no movie 1 without R2.
Yeah.
The movie 1 of Phantom Menace is 11 minutes long and everybody's dead. And there's no saga.
Yep. I mean, he kind of does the same thing at the beginning of episode 3, with the elevator and the, all that kind of stuff. Keeps the droids from finding out where they are so they can go fight Dooku and everything. And I mean, really, if you go through all the films, like R2 helps save the day. And the reason I say he's underrated is because not many people ever realize that. I know when my cousin first mentioned that to me a couple years ago, I stopped to think about it and he mentioned every movie. I was like, holy crap, you're right. That's very true. The R2 saves the day in every movie.
The only thing in 8 movies that has really been his like bane of existence is episode 2 when Padme and Anakin try to walk upstairs.
Yeah.
So, right. Nothing else in the galaxy has affected R2-D2 except a flight of stairs.
Yep. So. Yeah. I mean, even episode 8, where he's barely in the movie, Luke's like, I'm not getting involved in this, basically. And then R2 plays the old hologram of Leia, which gets Luke back into the fight. So that right there.
Like, that's low or something like that.
That's a cheap trick or something like that.
Cheap move.
Yeah, that's a cheap move. And
Cheap Trick, surrender. But yeah, I mean, so even that with as little screen time as he has in episode 8, I mean, there it is. It's
more than he had in 7.
Yeah. Well, even in 7, he keeps the portion of the map.
Yep.
So he was the one that put it all together at the end, really. So he had an integral part in that, even though he was barely in it in episode 7. So you got to wonder if they wrote it that way on purpose. Like if J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson knew that R2 was the most pivotal character. And so they said, well, we don't really have much for him to do. We have to have him do the most important thing.
It's been a trope. Yeah. It was established as a trope that R2 saves the day.
I think it's a beautiful trope. Personally, I love that.
I love the fact that he just basically sat out the entire movie in Force Awakens and then just kind of like jumped in when he felt like it.
Yeah.
Like he had that the whole damn time. And he's just like, nah,
he's just an old
down.
man in an old folks home that was sleeping all day.
He's like, oh, now you deserve the map. I'll wake up.
And then he just woke up and went, here, dummies.
Yeah. I'm sick of hearing about this map. Just take it. Good Lord. So if I was to say there's an underrated character, I would say R2-D2. I think that's definitely someone that I would consider underrated just because people love him and he's super popular, but they don't really understand just how important he is to the furthering of the storyline in each of the films. So that's all right. That's my first pick.
I'll go with that one.
All right. Who's got another one?
I hope to God you guys have seconds because I got nothing right now. So I'm just going to say,
really?
The Lobot.
What the hell?
I don't know.
Shut up.
I'm just pulling something out of my ass.
You've had a week to think about this. Come on.
Yeah, sure I did.
What did we say about that fourth wall? Damn it.
There you go, guys. Play off that. Why is Lobot underrated?
Actually,
he's got the space version of Hulk Hogan here. Donut.
True.
It's an electronic donut.
I could totally play off of that, actually. Because think of how differently Empire Strikes Back would have ended if Lobot didn't do his job.
Yeah.
Lobot's the guy who actually helped the rebels escape Cloud City.
True. Now, is that underrated or underappreciated?
Fourth show.
Yeah. Damn it.
That would be Wilbur Hood, actually. So, you know.
So, do you have one, AJ?
Yeah, I think underrated character, Cad Bane.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That guy is my number one bounty hunter of all time.
That's kind of hard to argue.
I mean, it's as much as like everyone loves their Boba Fett from the movies. I think we saw Cad Bane do way more than we've seen Boba Fett do. He actually successfully took over the Senate and held him hostage. I mean, damn, that is cold. Busted Zero the Hutt out of prison.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Cad Bane was awesome, but
that's the point of view.
Cad Bane was awesome. I hated his voice though.
Really? I thought that was one of the coolest things.
Wait a minute. I was just going to say that I loved his voice.
Hated that.
Why? The super deep voice?
Yeah, did not like that at all. Don't know why. It's just one of those.
You're not thinking of Hondo Ohnaka, are you?
No, definitely Cad Bane with that weird robot deep voice.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, never liked it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I thought
told
that
you in the last episode, worst Star Wars fan ever. So.
Two things. I like the deep. It had like its own like character. The voice itself did.
Right. It definitely made him. You know, you were not mistaking that, but at the same point, I was just like, eh.
Plus, personal side note, the accent seemed kind of vaguely like Dutch. It reminds me of the way our Aunt Anna talks.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that like her accent was like really cool. So if I got a bounty hunter sounding like that, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. It's slightly foreign, but still kind of endearing at the same time.
Yeah, he was a total badass. And even in that show, I mean, obviously they must have thought that Hondo Ohnaka was cooler to bring back into Rebels. So
he was more entertaining of a character. So if you're going for a more lighthearted show, which they kind of were, I get it. But I mean, Cad Bane, he was able to fight off Obi-Wan. I mean, at different times, didn't he fight off Obi-Wan and Anakin simultaneously? Or he definitely fought off Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan simultaneously.
I don't remember those episodes enough. I just started rewatching everything.
But the dude could scheme and he could fight. Like he was actually competent. He was a competent villain. That's a hard thing to pull off.
That's what I thought too. And he sounded like a badass, and his actions and
lived up to what he sounded like and what they kind of portrayed him as. When you first meet him, you're like, who the hell is this guy? And then, oh yeah, he turns out to be as badass as you think he is.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. I agree with that one. If I had to go with another one, I would go with Chirrut Imwe.
Oh yeah.
Which I know, Steve, you're not going to agree with because you're wrong about Rogue One. But yeah, I just, he kind of is the first character they brought in that really was kind of not a Jedi, but was that Force sensitive individual, which is really a direction that they've gone in with other people since then, which is really cool. And there's just something about that character that has always grabbed me. And it's so Star Wars to me. The whole, he's blind, but he can still get around and kick ass and everything. And it just has the heart of Star Wars to me, that character. And I don't think people really talk about him a lot. He's talked about in context of the movie, but you don't hear a lot of people going around and, talking about him when they're talking about Luke Skywalker and Chewbacca and, all this other stuff. Like he gets overlooked even for Jyn Erso and everything, but it's like he was a badass, but he was a really good guy. And he kind of expanded the mythos of the Force. And it was really, really cool. And yeah. I just don't think he gets talked about enough.
I can be wrong about the movie, at least according to you, but I really did like him as a character though. Jyn and Cassian, though, like being the main people in the movie, that's where my disconnect was, because I never connected with them.
Right.
But honestly, I felt more connected to Chirrut and K2SO than I did who you were supposed to be connected to in that movie. Like watching the world blow up and see them two on the beach, I gave a rat's ass about that. Like I felt worse about watching Chirrut get shot up on the beach than the end of the movie. I'm just like, let it happen. I don't care about these two.
Right.
Like I felt way worse about K2 and Chirrut than I did Cassian and Jyn.
I could actually say the whole Rogue One crew is kind of underrated to me, because there's so many people that share your opinion, Steve, that they love the movie, but they're like, those characters didn't grab me at all. And I'm like, well, they grabbed me.
Yeah.
As soon as they started dying, I was like, when they killed K2, I was like, oh, that sucks. And then Bodhi Rook gets blown up in the shuttle. I was like,
Bodhi.
Yeah, Bodhi Rook. Cargo pilot.
Local boy, eh?
The Nerf Herder Council, you're home for Star Wars impressions. Not good, they are.
I think they could be better.
We have our Tom Kane drop-ins are great. I'm so glad we got to interview him and have him record all that stuff for us. It's our own soundboard. But yeah, I mean, once I started, when I realized that they were going to start picking them off, I was really bummed out. I was like, oh no, because then I was like, okay, well, obviously they finished the mission, but how are they going to finish it if they're all going to die? So it kind of added some tension to the story to me. And I don't know. And I love the character. So to me, I just, people not getting into it, like you say, Steve, I just don't understand it. And, to each their own, as right. I'm fond of saying. So, I just personally loved it. And I was really surprised that, having met these people out of nowhere, and that, maybe what it is just that the severity and the stakes of the mission, we already knew like what the Death Star was and what it would become and the destruction that it could, unleash. So knowing what these guys have to steal and what they're up against, I think that kind of, for me, was like, okay, well, it got me invested in those characters because it was almost insurmountable what they were up against.
I'm going to piggyback off an idea that you had last episode.
Okay.
When I went Ezra Bridger and you went all of Rebels, I'm going to piggyback off of Chirrut Imwe and go all of Rogue One. That movie was amazing. It's one of our favorites. And I won't say it's been completely forgotten, but because the ideas that it set forth as far as like what a Star Wars story could be and different concepts of the Force and like who has it and who knows about it, that's all like kind of permeated throughout Star Wars since. But it just seems like the thing's only 2 years old and it's got like no buzz anymore already.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I kind of agree with you on that.
Like after all the uproar of Last Jedi and then all the milquetoast reaction that Solo got. People forget that Rogue One made over $1 billion freaking dollars. Like,
Yeah.
that was a huge success and a tremendous risk. Like, I don't think that thing gets nearly the credit it deserves for the accomplishment that it was to put a Star Wars movie out there that had not a single Jedi in it and gave us some of the most memorable visuals and scenes and dared to reference the prequels at all.
Yeah.
Insofar as even bringing back the actors from those roles in episode 3. I mean, you got Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa.
Yep.
You got, I'm sorry, I don't remember Guinevere or something, whatever the name was.
Mon Mothma.
Yeah, Mon Mothma, exactly. And that was one of those roles, Mon Mothma especially, because she was she even seen in episode 3 or only in the deleted scenes? Like, they could have very easily recast that.
I think it was just the deleted scenes. Like, was it the something of the 200?
Something like that, yeah.
The collection of the 200 or something that were, petitioning, whatever.
They could have easily recast that.
Yeah.
To go out and get the same actress again was just a masterstroke.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and to me, the thing about Rogue One, I mean, that's my second favorite movie. I mean, eventually we'll do our rankings now that, there's 12 movies or whatever the hell there is, or 10 or, but to me,
Caravan of Courage is still better than Phantom Menace.
Shut up. It is not.
No, I don't think so.
But to me, I mean, Rogue One feels like the original trilogy. And so many people are saying that The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, like, that feels like Star Wars, like, not like, Rogue One to me feels like something George Lucas would have done. The other stuff is pretty close. The Last Jedi is real close for me. Force Awakens, not so much and I still can't put my finger on it, but Rogue One, okay, that's what I remember feeling like with 1 through 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't hear, like you said, there's not a lot of people talking about it. And I wonder if it's because it is it's the easiest one to get into. And the easiest one to enjoy.
Talk about a total bridge picture. It's got prequel actors. It's got original era actors. They got, Red Leader and Gold Leader back.
Well, no, that's unused footage from episode 4.
And new dialogue, though. They actually had, please get this right so I don't sound stupid, Gold Leader, I think.
Yeah, Red Leader was dead, I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, they got the other guy to record new lines.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he actually recorded new dialogue for it. That wasn't just digitally stitched together. That was new stuff.
I had no idea.
I mean, old footage, new dialogue.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, to get like the actor from 1977 playing alongside the actor from 2005, and really like say, hey, it all counts, guys. It's all real Star Wars. Like that was very ballsy for one of Disney's first moves to be, let's get all of George Lucas's movies playing together in one film.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, obviously there's, the backlash against The Last Jedi by a certain segment of the fan base is obvious. There's, the stuff with The Force Awakens from people like me who think it's too much of a ripoff of, episode 4. Solo, people generally love, but a lot of people are like, well, did we really need this? Rogue One, there's really none of that. It's pretty much just universally like, well, this feels like Star Wars and it's kick ass. And it was executed perfectly. So, people talk about it the least because there's not a lot to complain about in that movie, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why nobody talks about it, though.
Yeah,
because there's nothing to talk about when you enjoy it.
It's like Empire, exactly.
So
it's like people always talk about all the other movies except for Empire.
The cool thing to do is to go on and bitch about things now. So that's why we're just spoon fed negativity. So that's why nobody talks about Rogue One.
Like Empire is always avoided as a topic because it's pretty much universally agreed upon as the best Star Wars movie. So it's like, okay, it's the best. Move on. What about the other ones?
Right.
And you can discuss everything behind it. So I mean, it's kind of like that for the Disney era movies with Rogue One. It's like, yeah, that's the best one. Okay, what else you got? Like,
ooh, that's a good point. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know if I'm ranking them, it's like that for me.
I mean, box office would say it's episode 7 for Disney, but you're right. There is stuff you can talk about with that, whereas Rogue One is just kind of universally like, yeah, it's there and we like it.
Yeah. Box office, I mean, it says a lot, but to me, I always look at because people are like, oh, Force Awakens has to be the best because it did 2 million and I can't believe you don't like it. It's like, well, you know what though? Like there's bands like Madonna sold 100 million records or some ungodly amount of records. I think her music is absolute dog crap. Just because you sell a bunch of records doesn't mean it's any good. I mean, Green Day, highly average,
but they've sold a ton of records. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They write really good choruses and it's catchy stuff. Good for them. But musically, it's highly average. But you know, the record sales would tell you otherwise. And it's like that with The Force Awakens. Like, yeah, has it made the most money? Is it the third highest grossing movie of all time or something like that? Awesome. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie.
You always have to take everything into account. You got to take into account the gap of Star Wars movies and the hype for 2 years previous to Episode 7 coming out and all that. Like, they could have spoon fed you the absolute worst crappy movie that had zero to do with Star Wars in the history of anything, and it would have made a crap ton of money because people would have been like, dude, this is the first Star Wars we got in like 15 years. Yay.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's like, you got to take all that stuff into account. So it's weird.
Even Force Awakens had an underrated character though.
Okay.
Before you get into that, but I'm going to let you do it just because my one thing that I was going to come up with, he said share it, and then you kind of stole mine by saying everything about Rogue One, because I was just going to go with Radis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
So I was just like, but once we started getting into the whole Rogue One talk, I'm like, all right, there's really no point in trying to.
No, there is a guy that doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
the same
true.
thing as Cheer It, where it's just like, he gets talked about in that time frame of that movie, but once you get done with that, other than having the ship named after him in Episode 8, it's just like,
yep,
he's just forgotten at that point. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Also ballsy. You'd assume if they're going to put a Mon Calamari in charge of a ship in an original trilogy era movie, it would have to be Akbar.
Akbar, yeah,
right.
But I love the fact that it was another dude, and it's like, oh yeah, there was somebody else who was just as awesome, if not maybe a little bit more so. But he's dead now, and that's why I didn't see him in the real. I love the way they just fit that in perfectly.
Yes, I agree. Very good call, Steve.
I tried.
I would never have thought of that.
It's because I had a week to figure it out.
See, I wouldn't have thought about that because he's underrated.
Well, he's also super inclusive because he had those albino Moncal working for him. So
Oh, that's yeah.
He was blue. His underlings were white. Like, who knew there was so much diversity under the seas of Mon Cala?
Look at that. I agree. All right. So AJ, you said you had one.
You know where I'm going.
Oh,
you know where I'm going with this one.
Here we go.
I gotta shout out my man Hux. I know you think it's ridiculous, but the cornball aspect of Star Wars has been there from the start. And if you want someone who embodies that, then it must be my first order to shout out Brenda. No.
You know what? We covered it with the stupid fan theories when we got into that one that we were like, that almost had legs to it about Hux being the main guy in 9, where you're like, oh yeah, he could tell Kylo, oh yeah, Rey's down on this planet, and have the First Order turn against him and blah blah. And it's like, you could sit there, read that, and go, I could see that. Yeah,
that could happen.
And honestly, if something like that happens, that does make Hux, looking back on Episode 7 and 8, extremely underrated. If he turns into Snoke's dead, Kylo turns into whatever he's doing, and Hux turns into the main bad guy in Star Wars, that makes him extremely underrated up to that point. So yeah,
very good point.
I mean, you make him sound like a buffoon overall, but he gets stuff done. Like, he squashes from Force Awakens on through Last Jedi. He kicks the crap out of the Resistance. I know it, like, that's the whole storyline and that's the point, but he's actually getting his job done, which is also something that Imperials don't tend to do very well.
Yep.
So I got to give a shout out to the guy as a complete zealot. He buys into his own bullshit, and it's great. I love the fact that he is so committed, and how ridiculous must Domhnall Gleeson have felt delivering that speech, just knowing how over the top that thing was. Like, I don't know how you even direct that scene. Be like, hey, you know how, like, as an actor, you're supposed to have nuance? Forget all that.
Yeah.
Like, you know how you want to go to 11?
Watch this video of Hitler talking to
yeah, it really was.
That.
Now imagine if Monster Energy drink was around when Hitler was around. Let's put Hitler on 3 days of no sleep and about 15 Monster Energy drinks. Now what would he sound like?
A guy having a heart attack,
right?
No, I mean, that is a very good point. He really is kind of like the embodiment of the over the top aspects of Star Wars.
And especially
It's
because
very obvious, but it's not heavy handed. Like, you know, like, hey, look what we're doing. Remember how cheesy Star Wars was back then? Ha, ha. Like,
right. And as Star Wars has gone on, it's gotten more like subtle and nuanced and areas of gray and all this sort of stuff. So to have a character that's just like purely bad and to the core, all about his cause, there's no hesitation. Like, he's never like, you know what? I don't really like Kylo that much. I don't get the respect. Maybe I should leave the First Order. He's like, F you, man. I'm First Order all the way to the bone.
Yep. He's committed, if nothing else.
Yeah, also, in the first times you see him in episode 7, he gets right up in Kylo's face. And at that point, you were led to believe that Kylo was the end all be all of bad guys. And Hux is just like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, they really appeared to be on the same level to me.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, I got the whole friggin' army behind me. You got a lightsaber. Want to go?
Yeah.
Right.
I got this, bro. So I have one more.
Yeah.
Han Solo.
Not possible.
Because people piss me off when they don't have him win the greatest character tournaments. It's always damn Darth Vader or
Are they still doing
Obi-Wan.
those? They didn't do that this year, did they?
I don't believe
know.
they did.
It's never Han Solo, which means he's underrated and people are wrong. Han Solo is amazing. He's not only the best Star Wars character, he's the best character, period.
Prime Solo. When is Prime Solo?
When is Prime Solo?
Like you've got Solo, a Star Wars story. You've got 4, 5, 6, and 7. When is Prime Solo?
I would have to say anytime he's on the screen, because Han Solo is great.
Go on.
No,
I happen to be a fan of. I was a fan of Curmudgeon Solo in episode 7.
That was great. They wrote him so well in that movie.
All the one-liners with Kanji Club and stuff like that, and all the smart ass comments to Chewie about, oh, you're cold and things like that. Like Curmudgeon Solo was a great character.
It's exactly how you would picture Han Solo being if he got old. I mean, they did a brilliant job with him. So that was, I mean, I'm kidding. I mean, he's obviously not underrated, but it does piss me off when people just keep hanging on to the Darth Vader thing. It's like, dude, come on. But then again, Han Solo is a very obvious choice for a favorite character too. So I guess I really can't complain about that. You know, I'm trying to think if there's any other really obvious choices that, you know, I mean, it's starting to become a point where there's so many characters because there's so many platforms, you know, Rebels and Clone Wars, and now there's 4 Disney movies, and there's the 6 original George Lucas movies,
the comics,
books, the novels, and everything.
Forces of Destiny. Although there's no new characters in Forces of Destiny, I don't think.
I mean, to pick stuff that's, you know, to pick characters out of there that are underrated. Excuse me, as I completely butchered the English language. To pick characters out of all that are underrated. There's so many to choose from. And
honestly, it's hard to deviate too. Like we said earlier, when I said, well, is that underrated or underutilized? And then the whole rest of the time I'm sitting here trying to think, well, who's underrated? I'm like, no, that's definitely underutilized. It's totally different. So trying to pick this apart and nitpick it to the point of saying, yeah, this guy's totally underrated is really
it's
tough
basically
to do.
a popularity thing. Like, do you think a character isn't as popular as they should be or as appreciated as they should be? You know, so I mean, it's kind of hard to think about other characters because I mean, these are just the ones that came to mind immediately for me. Yeah, and no, I agree with that. I figure if you have to really think about it, you're trying too hard, so maybe they're not underrated.
Maybe, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's about it for me.
I got nothing else.
I can't really think of anything else I would think of. I mean, I would say
we would just be getting silly at this point. So,
well, I mean, at this point,
we don't like, that's not our show.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. I mean, at this point we might be just getting into like favorite characters. Cause you think of characters like Hera Syndulla, but I mean, she's definitely not underrated. You know, right. People really like, you know, her and, I
think you could probably find a lot of Imperials though, because by nature, by the very nature, the villains are usually less explored. They tend to be one dimensional and just there to get in the way of the heroes. And there are some cool ones in there.
I did think of one more, maybe Saw Gerrera. I don't think people give him credit for as cool as he really is. I thought that's a character I really wish there had been so much more of. Forrest Whitaker did an amazing job with that character in Rogue One.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so cool.
I think that's where it's coming from, because he was in Clone Wars and he was meh.
Yeah, it was just a guy, but
wrong kid died.
Yeah.
Really, his sister was way cooler.
Okay.
Tila or whatever her name was.
Yeah. It was Tila, because I always thought of He-Man. But yeah, I loved what Forrest Whitaker did, and it was almost like Hux. It was like way over the top, but not heavy-handed. I thought, and it was just a character I could have, if he would have stayed alive the whole movie, I would have been perfectly fine with that. I just thought it was really cool, and for the short amount of time that he was on the screen, like, you totally understood his mistrust of, even the rebellion. Like, you understood that he was an extremist and all this. And I never hear people talk about that. Even with, we brought up Rogue One, how little people talk about it and everything. They talk even less about Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
Almost like he's just like a plot, a guy to move the plot along to the next point kind of a thing. I know there's a specific term for that, and I don't remember what it is, but
pulling it back to this discussion about books from last episode. That's one of the cases where I think the book did it better, because I thought it was kind of weird in the movie where he's like, oh crap, the planet's blowing up. Well, you guys go. I'm gonna let this mountain fall on me.
Yeah, right.
Like, he's like, I will run no longer. Like, you're not making a bold last stand. You're just letting a mountain fall on you.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to be gained by this. But in the book, it's like very.
I did not think this through.
Right.
he's the captain going down with the Titanic.
Yeah. But in the book, it's very clearly explained, like, he can't physically get there, and if anyone tries to bring him along, they'll die too. Like, it's much clearer that it's physically impossible for him to save himself, and he will only cause others to die with him if they try to save him.
Well, it's easier to show it in the movie as he's heroic, rather than him like trying to hobble his crippled ass along and then them trying to drag him and going.
But it makes more sense, at least in the book.
Yeah,
heroic and underrated. What about somebody like Biggs? that literally just plays human shield so Luke can go blow up the Death Star or something.
Everybody who has to sit behind the guy making the trench run. Yes, those guys.
Underrated. All the dudes that get picked off one by one. Exactly. Down in the trench, in that shooting gallery. All right, so we got the Jedi. All right, who's going to go in there and distract him? Oh, crap.
Hey, you've got a ship. Why don't you go get shot at?
How about this kid that just showed up out of nowhere flying one of our X-Wings while we're all trained, space marines and stuff. But yeah, we'll all fly behind this guy. Has no clue what he's doing. He doesn't even have his tracking system on. Yeah, let's follow him blindly into battle.
He's just guessing when he's going to shoot. Like, look at this guy. Now. Holy crap, I hit it. Oh, come on.
There you go. Call back.
That was good. All right.
Underrated character, Porkins.
I was just about to say that. So many good internet memes and whatnot.
Always got to give love to the fat guy when he creates internet memes.
Love that guy. Well,
he's one of the top men in the movie.
Ah, man. See, so few people know that that's him. You know that, right? The guy, in Raiders of the Lost Ark that sends him on the quest for the Ark, and then we've got top men working on it. Ooh, top men. That's Porkins. So he's in Indiana Jones. So that's perfect. So on that little tidbit, why don't we close up shop for this week? Thanks again for checking out another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Thanks goes out to Galactic Empire. Don't forget to check out their records. They're available on Rise Records, and you can get them anywhere you get your digital music. We are available on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Castbox. We are now on Spotify and Google Podcasts, which has its own app. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. You can now buy official Nerf Herder official Nerf Herder Council t-shirts at TeePublic, that's TeePublic.com/NHC. facebook.com/user/NHC podcast. Speaking of NHC podcast, that is our Twitter handle, so look us up there. We have our Facebook page. You can email us also at feedback@nerfherdercouncil.com. And all of our episodes are available on YouTube, so you can find us there as well. So thanks again for checking out another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. We appreciate it. Till next time, I am your host, JT at Dog Pound Jedi. He's AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And he is Steve.
At Underrated Porkins.
We'll catch you next time.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.